Hey blues fans, you made it and we're so glad you did. It's time for another episode of This Week in the Blues. It's our weekly take on blues history. I'm your host, Jimbo Big Train Madsen, with the blues band Big Train and the Locomotives. We're just trying to keep the blues alive, one podcast, one video, one social media post, and when we're out playing, one song at a time. So anyway, let's take a look and see what happened this week in blues history. Chicago blues singer and songwriter Lil Green was born December 22nd in 1919. She was among the leading female rhythm and blues singers of the 1940s with a sensational soprano voice. She was born somewhere in Mississippi. No specific location was ever found. After the early deaths of her parents, she began performing in her teens, having honed her craft in the church performing gospel. She sang in the Mississippi juke joints. In 1929, she moved to Chicago, where she would make all of her recordings. Green was noted for her superb timing and a rich, sinuous voice. Mississippi Delta bluesman Josh Razorblade Stewart was born December 22nd, 1946, in Jonestown, Mississippi. Now, Stewart taught himself to play music as a young child, and he learned how to read music as a member of the Coahoma County Agricultural High School and College Band, where he played for 6 years and became accomplished at slide trombone, saxophone, trumpet, and piano. Returning in 1970 after serving in Vietnam, he joined brothers Harville and Dion Thomas as members of James Super Chicken Johnson's original band, the Fighting Cocks. Stewart will go on to mentor the youth of Clarksville, Mississippi, teaching them the fundamentals of the blues. Blues, jazz, ragtime, and boogie-woogie pianist Will Ezell was born December 23, 1892. By 1926, Ezell started work for Paramount in Chicago because they provided regular work for black musicians, which was not always available elsewhere. He regularly contributed to the recordings made by Paramount Records in the late 1920s and 1930s, and was a technically brilliant pianist, showing a strong influence of jazz as well as blues. Ezell's Pitchin' Boogie and Cow Cow Davenport's Cow Cow Blues were among the earliest boogie-woogie recordings. In addition to his musical input, Ezell's duties with Paramount were pretty varied. In December of 1929, he escorted the body of Blind Lemon Jefferson, who had been one of Paramount's best-selling artists, by railroad back to Jefferson's hometown in Texas for burial. Blues guitarist Leroy Dallas was born December 24th in 1909. His more memorable recordings are from 1948 and include Good Morning Blues and Jump Little Children Jump. He traveled widely in the Deep South in the 1930s and 40s. He played the washboard, accompanying Brownie McGee, and later teamed up with Frank Edwards and Georgia Slim for a while. He also played solo on the streets of Chicago. He recorded 8 tracks in his own name between 1948 and 1962. Blues guitarist, singer, and harmonica player Daniel Womack was born December 24th in 1904 on a Pittsylvania County tobacco farm. He became completely blind at the age of 14 and attended the Virginia State School of the Deaf. He taught himself to play the piano and formed the Virginia State School Quartet. In the 1930s and 40s, he learned the distinctive Piedmont fingerpicking style of playing the guitar and drew large crowds at local tobacco auctions. Chicago blues guitarist and singer L.V. Johnson was born December 25th in 1946. Johnson learned to play the guitar from B.B. King. He is best known for his renditions of Don't You Mess With My Money, My Honey, or My Woman, and Recipe. Other songs he wrote were recorded by Tyrone Davis, Bobby Blue Bland, and the Dells. He was the nephew of Elmore James. Now, Johnson was also employed by Stax Records as a session musician and played on recordings by the Barkays, Johnny Taylor, and the Soul Children. Blues singer and songwriter Joseph Pullum was born December 25th in 1905. Pullum recorded 4 sessions, which yielded a total of 30 tracks between April of 1934 and February of 1936. Pullum's major success was a recording of his own song, Black Gal What Makes Your Head So Hard. It was a big seller and was covered by Leroy Carr, Skip James, Bumblebee Slim, the Harlem Hamfats, Speckled Red, and many, many others. Unfortunately, his following recordings didn't fare so well, so I guess he's kind of the blues version of a one-hit wonder. But at least he had that one hit. Delta blues guitarist and harmonica player J.D. Short was born December 26, 1902 in Port Gibson, Mississippi. He was a cousin of Big Joe Williams and David Honeyboy Edwards. He had a distinctive vibrato-laden singing voice, and early in his career he recorded under a number of pseudonyms, including Jelly Jaw Short. His noteworthy recordings include Lonesome Swamp Rattlesnake and You're Tempting Me. Short disappeared from the music industry for over 2 decades before re-emerging during the blues revival of the 1960s. Electric blues bass guitarist Bob Stroger was born December 27th in 1930. Stroger was born on a farm outside Haiti, Missouri, and in 1955 he relocated with his family to Chicago. Now, he's worked with a who's who list of blues musicians, including Otis Rush, Jimmy Rogers, Eddie Taylor, Eddie Clearwater, Sunnyland Slim, Louisiana Red, Homesick James, Snooky Pryor, and Willie Big Eyes Smith. Well, blues fans, we just covered some of the highlights here. Now, if you want to know more about these artists, or the other things that happened this week in the blues, and there's a lot of them, be sure to follow our social media pages or visit our website at bigtrainblues.com. Now, we'll have a new episode next week, so we'll see you then.